Hi guys, I know how difficult it can be to find the right wah pedal for your rig, so I thought I'd do a video to help you figure that out. There's many variables that go into this, but hopefully I can illuminate some of it for you. The first thing to consider in the tone of the wah, and the most important part of the chain, is what type of inductors in the wah. So good wahs usually either have yellow or red phasal inductors or halo inductors. The halo inductor is popular in classic wah designs because Hendrix's wah used a halo inductor. The halo inductor, for some people, is the thinnest sound, but for me it's really the cleanest, least saturated tone. So it's not going to make the amp sound wider. It kind of just leaves it alone, and it's very clean and silky, and it just goes wah, wah, wah. Phasal inductors, especially the yellow phasal inductor, can sound tonally quite similar to a halo, except they're more saturated and they're wider sounding, and they can do the wah, wah thing. They can also kind of do a wow, wow, wow kind of thing. Okay, wow, like that. Red phasals are even more saturated and darker and throatier. They do sort of the wow, sort of man in the box sort of tone. The operating frequency of the wah can be a lot deeper a lot of times in those sort of pedals. So it really depends on what you need. The other part of it that can affect, the tonality of the vowel sound is the type of pot in the wah. That also affects how you operate the wah. So for example, the Clyde Deluxe here, it's a lot like a vintage wah where basically the point where the pedal sweeps through and goes wah 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 is close to the end of the heel, and as it goes higher, it doesn't get super bright. It's close to the bypass tone of your rig. This allows you to have to be able to do a quick pumping wah 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 like White Room Eric Clapton very easily without killing your calf. It also allows it to be more expressive because it has like a higher kind of subtle wah region and a low one. It's a little more challenging to use for a lot of people, but once you understand how to use that, it can be really cool. But that's something to consider, and the pot is also affecting that tone of it. If you want something similar to that, that's a classic halo inductor type of wah sound like the Fulltone, the RMC-10 is very similar tonally. It's not quite as mid-range prominent. It has a little bit more of a twangy top end to it, but very cool. And it's a little cooler maybe for like a clean tone stuff. But it's got its sweep more in the middle of the wah, so it's a little more user friendly. As far as phasal inductor wahs, I think the MXR Custom Audio Electronics wah is a really cool wah. It's got switchable red and yellow phasal inductors. They're internally adjustable to adjust how aggressive the resonance of the wah, the inductors are and the output levels. It also has a boost, so you can adjust the boost and turn that on and off. Also, most pedals, including the RMC and the Fulltone, the inductor resonance is adjustable to tweak that inside the wah. Just make sure you mark these things. Okay, so great, we can do a lot of different sounds. Why would I want one sound or the other? Well, here's my theory on this at least. When wahs were first designed, they were primarily thinking we're going to try to reproduce a trumpet wah-wah mute sound on a guitar. They're not thinking we're going to boost the heck out of the amp or anything. We're just going to go wah-wah. So if you think of Hendrix's tone, early Marshalls can be kind of loose and saggy, and he's using 55 hertz, resonant Celestians, which are going to be very loose and bassy. So having a, let's not call it thinner, but not a wider sounding wah, it just kind of goes wah and stays very clean and silky, is going to keep the amp from sounding too loose and big and tighten it up and go wah. That's going to work very effectively for that. I've also found that's very effective for really thick 606. 606s have a little wider spread of frequency. So amps like Mesa Boogie, Mark IIc Plus amps and Soldanos and KSR amps, which I play, amps with lots of thick, wide preamp gain, especially 606s in the power section, they benefit from a halo inductor wah because you don't want to overly fatten the amp. They also seem to benefit from not boosting the amp. So even though boost is cool and can sound crazy and over the top, I don't tend to use any boosting into the KSR because I want to try to keep the same lead tone and just have it go wah, wah, wah. And that seems to work good. However, previously I used tighter sounding EL34 type amps. And what I would find with that is, if you think about it, the way a wah works is it's basically a band filter and you're sweeping the frequency band. So if you have an already thin sounding amp, and then you accentuate just this one frequency and cut the other stuff away, the amp starts to sound thin and not as saturated. So having an inductor like a phasal that sounds more saturated and wider helps to get the amp back to its more bypass sound, or feel closer to that and feel easier and silky to play. And having some boost allows you to push the amp to get back the saturation you lost. So thinner amps probably like phasal inductors and output boost more. So if that's your sort of amp, you might want to try that first and see how that works for you. Thicker, more saturated amps want pedals that don't sound saturated internally and don't have a lot of boost. So they like cleaner things like that. So I was using a Morley Bad Horsey wah back in the day, and that sounded great with the EL34 amp I was using, but it sounded way too congested and not right through a 6L6 amp. Because you got to remember, it's the whole tone network of your pickups into your pedal, into the amp. Another consideration is like how you want to use the pedal.